You've been told to fear debt. I'm telling you to use it. The rich already do. Killing every dollar of debt can also kill your growth. The thing most people miss is simple: there's good debt and bad debt. Mix them up, and you stall for years. Stick around. I'll give you a dead simple filter, the leverage math, and a safe way to start. We'll cut the bad debt, use the good debt, and follow a step-by-step plan. And there's one rule that makes this 10 times safer. I'll reveal it when we get to leverage. The good debt versus bad debt filter. Here's why this matters. When you label all debt as evil, you avoid the traps, sure, but you also miss the tools that slow wealth building. You work harder, not smarter, because you're only using your cash, not smart financing. Meanwhile, prices and incomes move without you. The gap widens. So let's use a simple rule. Borrow for appreciating assets or cash flow. Avoid borrowing for consumption or depreciation. If it grows or pays you, it's a candidate. If it fades or feeds lifestyle, skip it. Bad debt checks 3 boxes: high APR, funds time or lifestyle, loses value. That's credit cards, personal loans for non-essentials, and most car loans. You're paying a premium to own something worth less tomorrow. It drains your future income. Good debt has the opposite traits: low, fixed rate, tied to assets that grow or produce income, and a clear payback path. Think investment property mortgages, sensible business loans with real margins, or select degrees where the increased earnings outweigh the cost. You're matching long-term financing to long-lived assets. Here's why this works. When your borrowing cost is lower than your asset's growth or income, you spread risk and amplify returns using other people's money. You keep more of your own cash for reserves and opportunities, and your asset does the heavy lifting. Now, the practical checks. 1. Compare APR to expected return. Don't guess. Use conservative, long-term numbers. 2. Fixed versus variable. Fixed payments make planning easier. Variable rates can spike, so you need a bigger buffer. 3. Cash flow after all costs: mortgage, insurance, taxes, maintenance, management, and reserves. If it doesn't pay you after that, it's speculation. 4. Liquidity plan. Where will the next 6 months of payments come from if income dips? Common mistakes to avoid: counting maybe appreciation as a sure thing, ignoring the full cost of ownership, and taking floating rates with no emergency cushion. Once you see this filter, the math of leverage starts to click. Let's make sure leverage works for you, not against you. Leverage that doesn't blow up. Leverage multiplies outcomes. Done right, it speeds up wealth. Done wrong, it wipes out years of progress. The goal is simple: protect the downside, let the upside take care of itself. Use this 3-part leverage test: cash flow margin, rate versus return spread, and risk buffers. First, cash flow margin. After every cost and a real reserve, you want positive monthly cash flow. Not break even today and it'll rise later. Income must exceed payments, insurance, taxes, maintenance, and a reserve line item. That cash flow is your shock absorber and your growth engine. Next, the rate versus return spread. Only borrow when your expected long-term return exceeds your all-in borrowing cost by a clear margin. All-in means interest rate plus fees, closing costs, and any recurring loan cost averaged over the period you plan to hold. Bigger spread, more safety. Thin spread, more risk. If you expect 7% long-term return and your all-in cost is 4.5%, you have room. If your cost is 6.5%, that's razor thin and not worth it. Third, risk buffers. Even strong deals fail without cushions. Build reserves for at least 6 months of payments. Add maintenance and capital expenditure set-asides. If it's a rental, plan for vacancy. If it's a business loan, model revenue dips. Buffers turn surprises into speed bumps instead of cliffs. Fixed rate priority matters. Lock predictability whenever you can. Fixed loans simplify cash flow planning. If you take a variable rate, double your buffers and plan for rate hikes. The extra cash on the sidelines is the price of flexibility. Let's walk through a simple comparison. Suppose you can buy a cash-flowing asset outright or use a low-rate fixed loan. Paying cash gives you no debt risk, but it ties up your money. Using a sensible loan, you can keep cash for reserves and maybe a second asset. If the asset yields steadily above the loan cost and still pays you after all expenses and reserves, leverage improves your return on your cash. If it doesn't clear the bar under conservative assumptions, paying cash or waiting beats forcing a deal. Here's the shortcut. Stress test before you sign. Drop your expected income by 10 to 20%. Raise your expenses and rate by a point. Add a few weeks of vacancy or a small revenue dip. If it still cash flows and you can carry 6 months of payments from reserves, proceed. If it fails these tests, pass. A quick tax angle with a caveat. Interest on business or investment debt may be deductible in many places, which effectively lowers your borrowing cost. But rules vary. Confirm what applies where you live and how you file. Don't build a deal that only works because of a tax benefit. Taxes should be a bonus, not the backbone. Watch for red flags. Teaser rates that jump later. Balloon payments that require a big lump sum you haven't planned for. Personal guarantees without a clear contingency plan. Stacking multiple loans with no centralized view of payments and covenants. If any of these show up, slow down and rethink structure. With leverage controlled, time and inflation become your allies. Fixed payments stay put while income can rise. Equity builds as you pay down principal, but that only works if you respect the test. Margin, spread, buffers. The one rule that makes this 10 times safer? Never borrow without a cash flow cushion and 6 months of payments in reserves. That's your line in the sand. Inflation, taxes, and the wealth flywheel. Now let's put time on your side. Fixed debt gets cheaper in real terms as inflation erodes the value of money. Your payment stays the same, while prices and often your income or rents can rise. That spread is quiet, steady tailwind. Match long-term fixed debt to assets that last and can rise income. That means financing things that produce value for years, not months. When the asset can nudge revenue up over time, your fixed payment becomes easier and easier to cover. Your margin widens without any extra effort. Here's why that matters. You're paying back tomorrow with weaker dollars, while the asset and its income can trend up. It's like running on a treadmill that slows a little every year while you keep the same pace. You're not sprinting harder. The math is helping you. Amortization adds a second engine. Each payment chips down principal, so you have two forces working at once: cash flow from operations and equity from paydown. You don't need hero moves. You need steady payments and disciplined management. but you have to keep the books clean. Separate personal spending from business or investment accounts. Track interest and operating costs accurately. Many jurisdictions allow interest on business or investment debt to be deductible, which lowers effective cost. But don't rely on that to make a weak deal look good. Treat any tax benefit as a boost, not the core case. Here's the flywheel. Step 1. Secure sensible, fixed financing on a durable, income-producing asset that clears the leverage test. Step 2. Operate it well. Keep reserves funded and let cash flow accumulate. Step 3. Reinvest surplus only after your buffers are full. Over time, you use excess cash to acquire the next asset that meets your rules. Each piece adds more cash flow and more principal paydown, which spins the flywheel faster. Refinance with caution. Do it to lower a fixed rate, improve monthly cash flow, or remove a risk like a looming balloon payment. Don't do it to fund consumption or strip equity just because it's available. That slows the flywheel and raises fragility. Always plan exits. If income drops, can you hold through the cycle with reserves and conservative operations? If rates fall, would a refi truly lower risk? If you sell, what's the tax impact and where does the capital go next? Knowing your hold, refi, or sell triggers keeps you in control. All right, you get the big idea. Let's turn it into steps you can run this month. Your 30-day debt game plan. Start with an audit. List every debt, APR, fixed or variable, term, payment. Mark red for high APR or consumption, green for low rate tied to income or appreciation, yellow for unclear. Kill bad debt first. Prioritize highest APR, automate extra payments, and pause lifestyle upgrades until red turns yellow, then green. Freeing cash flow is your first win. Build a buffer. Create a mini emergency fund sized to cover at least a few months of total debt payments, adjusted for how steady your income is. Set criteria. Write down your minimum cash flow margin, acceptable all-in borrowing cost, fixed rate preference, and reserve rules. If a deal doesn't meet them, it's a no. Make one conservative first move. Explore a low-rate fixed loan tied to a simple cash-producing asset and stress test it. Add safeguards. Pre-plan exits, verify terms, and get qualified oversight where needed. Then review weekly and adjust. The core idea: debt isn't the enemy. Undisciplined borrowing is. Use fixed, low-cost debt for assets that cash flow and rise, and let time do the heavy lifting. Save this, share it with someone who fears debt, and subscribe for weekly, practical finance tips. Want more? Watch the Safe Leverage follow-up next.